All right, are you ready for this? Today we're diving deep into rugby league history
I'm ready.
to uncover how television transformed the sport, from those local matches to the global phenomenon we know and love.
Sounds good to me.
Our main source for this deep dive is an excerpt from Rugby League in the television era.
Ah, a classic.
And let me tell you, there's some fascinating insights in there. Did you know that the first televised rugby league match
Oh, I know this one.
happened way back in 1951 on the BBC, no less?
Yep, that's right. It's crazy to think how far it's come since those early days.
It really is. And get this, there was a time when a media war actually split the entire sport in two.
Yeah, the Sutra League War. A wild period in rugby league history.
Wild is an understatement.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about how TV didn't just broadcast the game, it actually changed how it's played.
Right, the rules, the strategies, everything.
And of course, we can't forget about those billion-dollar TV deals. Buckle up, because we're about to take a trip through rugby league history.
I'm excited.
So let's start with the early days, the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Those first televised matches must have been pretty rudimentary, right?
Oh, yeah, imagine those grainy black and white broadcasts. No high definition, no fancy camera angles, just the raw energy of the game.
I can barely picture it. Back then, you could only watch it if you were lucky enough to be at the stadium, right?
Right. But with those first broadcasts, suddenly people who couldn't make it to the games, for whatever reason, distance, work, whatever, they could finally see what all the fuss was about.
So it opened the sport up to a whole new audience.
Absolutely. It was a game changer. Literally, it brought those legendary players and the intensity of the matches right into people's living rooms.
And it all kicked off in 1951, as we said. That first rugby league match broadcast by the BBC in England. That must have been a landmark moment.
It really was. And then in '61, Australia followed suit with the New South Wales versus Queensland series broadcast.
Ah, the birth of a legendary rivalry.
Right. And then just a few years later, in '67, they even broadcast the New South Wales Rugby League Grand Final.
Wow, they were really starting to embrace the power of television.
They were. And even though the reach of those early broadcasts was limited compared to today, it was still a huge cultural shift. It planted the seeds for everything that was to come.
I guess it showed them the potential, right? That rugby league could be a major force in televised entertainment.
Exactly. The execs must have seen those viewership numbers and realized that this sport had a huge future on the screen.
And that future started to take shape in the 80s, didn't it? That's when television really began to flex its muscles.
Yeah, the '80s were a turning point. The TV execs saw the magic of rugby league, and they were ready to make it bigger and better than ever.
And I bet the birth of State of Origin in 1980 played a major role in that.
Oh, absolutely. The State of Origin series, New South Wales versus Queensland, is pure television gold.
It's the pinnacle of rugby league rivalry.
And it wasn't just a lucky accident. It was practically designed for television. That passion, those high stakes, the fierce rivalry, that's what people want to watch.
It's must-see TV. And the ratings proved it. Millions of people tuning in, making State of Origin the biggest event in Australian Rugby League.
And that's when the big money started to roll in. In 1982, Channel 10 in Australia secured a major deal to broadcast the games.
Wow, so they saw the dollar signs.
They did. Friday night football became a regular thing, cementing rugby league's place in primetime. And get this, the grand final was even competing with the Australian Football League grand final for viewers.
So it was a real battle of the sporting giants, eh?
It was. Rugby league had arrived, and television was the vehicle that got it there.
But then things got a bit messy in the 90s, right? The Super League War. A battle fought not on the field, but in the boardrooms and on television screens.
Yep, 1995, Rupert Murdoch with his Super League, a breakaway competition challenging the established Australian Rugby League.
A real media empire clash.
It was. And the prize in this battle, control of the incredibly lucrative television rights. Murdoch and Kerry Packer, who backed the ARL, knew that whoever controlled the broadcast of the game had a gold mine on their hands.
So what happened? Did this media war actually affect the fans and how they experienced the game?
Absolutely. By 1997, there were two competing leagues running simultaneously. Can you imagine the confusion for fans?
It must have been a nightmare trying to keep up with your team.
It was. And it really highlighted how much power television wielded over the sport.
So how did this media standoff finally resolve itself? I can't imagine it lasting forever.
Well, in 1998, they finally called a truce and merged the two warring factions. And out of that merger was born the National Rugby League, the NRL, as we know it today.
And that led to another pivotal moment, right?
Yeah.
The massive deal with Channel 9.
Yeah, Channel 9 swooped in and secured the future of the newly formed NRL, proving that Rugby League was a major player in the world of sports broadcasting.
And that deal must have been worth a hefty sum, right?
It was, and it marked the beginning of the billion-dollar deals that would truly transform the sport.
Hold on, billion-dollar deals.
The story only gets more interesting from here.
You're not kidding. All right, we'll have to leave it there for now. But join us as we uncover the financial revolution that swept through Rugby League, all thanks to the power of television.
Looking forward to it. See you then.
Billion-dollar deals. Now we're talking. Tell me, how did these massive financial shifts change the game?
Well, as we entered the new millennium, the 2000s, Rugby League's value just skyrocketed. And it wasn't just Australia anymore either.
Right.
The UK's Super League was attracting some huge broadcasting deals as well.
So it really was becoming a global force, wasn't it? And television was the driving force behind all of that.
Exactly. And it gets really interesting when you look at the multi-platform takeover that happened. You had free-to-air TV, which was, and still is, absolutely crucial for making sure those big events like the Grand Final and State of Origin were available to everyone.
Right. Everyone needs to be able to watch those. They're like national events.
They really are. Then on top of that, you had the rise of pay TV. Channels like Foxtel here and Sky Sports in the UK, offering 24/7 coverage, analysis, replays, all that behind-the-scenes stuff.
Right, for the diehard fans who can't get enough.
Exactly. And then, bam! Streaming services entered the picture. Kayo, watch NRL. Suddenly, Rugby League was truly global, accessible to anyone with an internet connection.
Wow, talk about a revolution. So those eye-popping billion-dollar deals we talked about earlier, when did those start happening?
Well, in 2013, the NRL signed a $1.025 billion TV rights deal. It was massive.
$1 billion. That's incredible. That must have sent shockwaves through the whole sport.
It did. That kind of money-fueled expansion into new markets, places like the Pacific Islands, even North America started to get in on the action.
And it wasn't just about the money, right? Didn't this also give the broadcasters more power to influence the game itself?
Oh, absolutely. Remember what we were saying earlier about television shaping the game?
Yeah.
Those billion-dollar deals gave broadcasters a much bigger say in how things were run. They wanted to make sure that the product they were investing so heavily in was as entertaining as possible.
So they started to have a real influence on the rules of the game.
Exactly. Take the six-tackle rule, for example. Introduced way back in 1972. That was a direct response to television's desire for a faster, more exciting game.
It definitely sped things up. What other rule changes were influenced by television?
Well, a great example is the 40-20 rule, which came in 1997. It really encouraged more strategic kicking, leading to those unpredictable moments that keep viewers on the edge of their seats.
Right. So it made things less predictable.
Yeah. And it wasn't just about making the game faster and more exciting. They also wanted to make it fair, especially for the millions watching on TV.
So they introduced things like the video referee.
Exactly. That was in 1996, mainly to make sure those crucial televised matches were decided fairly. No more controversial calls, potentially ruining a game, especially with so many people watching.
I guess it also protects the broadcaster's investment, doesn't it? They don't want a controversial finish overshadowing a major event.
Exactly. And they took that idea even further in 2016 with the introduction of the bunker.
The bunker.
Yeah, it's basically a centralized video review system for those big TV games, all about minimizing human error and making sure the calls are as fair as possible.
So television didn't just broadcast the game. It actually shaped it, molded it into something faster, fairer, and more captivating for the viewers at home. That's pretty amazing.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that's not even the end of the story. The future of Rugby League on screen is it's full of possibilities. All these new technologies are emerging that could totally change how we experience the game.
Okay, now you've got me really intrigued. What sort of technologies are we talking about here? All right, lay it on me. What kind of game-changing tech are we talking about?
Well, get ready for Ultra HD and virtual reality. They're going to create viewing experiences that are just mind-blowingly immersive.
Ultra HD. Okay, I can kind of imagine that crystal clear picture, every blade of grass, every bead of sweat, it's all there. But VR, I don't even know where to start with that. What does that even look like for Rugby League?
Imagine this. You put on your VR headset, and suddenly you're not just watching the match. You're right there in the thick of it. You can feel the energy of the stadium, hear the roar of the crowd, You're seeing the players from these incredible new angles.
Okay, yeah, that does sound pretty amazing. Almost like you're part of the action.
Exactly. It's a whole new level of fan engagement.
Wow. But it seems like VR is still a ways off, right? What about the stuff that's happening right now?
Well, one thing that's absolutely exploding is the rise of social media and short-form content, TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, all that.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those. Little snippets of games and highlights. They're everywhere.
Exactly. It's like a quick hit of Rugby League, even if you don't have time to sit down and watch a whole match.
Perfect for our short attention spans, right?
Right. And for Rugby League, it's a fantastic way to connect with younger audiences who are used to consuming content in these quick bursts. They can capture the raw energy and athleticism of the game in a way that really resonates.
It's like a whole new language of sports.
Exactly. So we've got these ultra-realistic viewing experiences on the horizon with Ultra HD and VR, and we've got these bite-sized pieces of Rugby League magic on social media. What else is changing the broadcasting landscape?
Well, we can't forget about global streaming, right? That's got to be huge.
Absolutely. Services like KIO and Watch NRL have already made the game accessible to fans all over the world, and it's just going to keep growing.
So no matter where you are, you can watch Rugby League.
Yeah.
It's breaking down geographical barriers, bringing people together.
Exactly. As streaming technology improves and internet access becomes even more widespread, that potential audience for Rugby League is just going to explode.
Yeah.
It's exciting to think about fans from all corners of the globe connecting through their shared love of the game.
It's amazing, isn't it? Television and technology, they haven't just expanded the reach of Rugby League. They've changed how we experience it, how we connect with it as fans.
They really have. And you know, our source got me thinking about this. It's a bit of a mind bender, but with all these advancements, how do you think the way we watch Rugby League might actually influence how it's played in the future?
Whoa, that's a good question. You know, we talked about those early television broadcasts leading to rule changes like the 6-tackle rule and the 40-20 rule.
Yeah.
But could these new technologies like VR lead to even more dramatic changes?
Absolutely. What if fan reactions and emotions during a match could actually influence the gameplay in real time? Imagine fans voting on strategic decisions or even controlling virtual players on the field.
Wow, that's getting pretty sci-fi.
Um,
Like the lines between watching and playing the game could start to blur.
Exactly. It's a future where technology gives fans a whole new level of control and engagement. It could make the sport even more dynamic and interactive.
So what does all this mean for the average Rugby League fan?
It means you're in for a wild ride. The future of Rugby League broadcasting is bright. More ways to watch, more content to consume, and more opportunities to connect with the sport we love.
That sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Rugby League and television, I'm left with one final thought for everyone listening.
What's that?
How do you think technology will continue to shape not just how we watch Rugby League, but how it's played, experienced, and shared with the world? It's something to think about.
Absolutely. Keep those questions coming, keep diving deep, and stay tuned for more fascinating journeys into the world of sport and innovation.